allowing that.
Should be good.
Good?
Okay, it is Tuesday, December 18th, 2018. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Morning up.
I guess I should have called the meeting to order before I did that, but anyway. Minutes and reports received and filed.
None.
Okay, Commissioner Committee liaison reports, upcoming meetings and events.
I have nothing till tomorrow, and I can go over it tomorrow when we got more time.
I don't. I just mean, okay, we'll go with the rest tomorrow. I got Cap Region Board meeting tonight, so. Appointments, well, I'll tell you what, we're gonna go ahead and skip around. And we are going to call on Ed Story and Joy Sweeney to talk about discussion of putting kids first.
All right, well, I don't know where you want me to go, but I guess I'll sit up here. Okay, so everybody can hear me. First of all, we're not asking, I think I brought you the brochures last week, but we have more if you want to see them again. We're not asking for your endorsement. All we're asking for, and we appreciate your service to the constituents of Cole County, all we're asking for you to do is allow this to go onto the ballot so that it can be put to a vote of the people and let the people decide whether or not this is something that's important enough for them to do. I think you all know it's a 1/4 cent tax, so it would be 1 penny for every $4. Basically, what we're asking people to do is throw their penny jars into Cole County kids. And it will help kids, it will help families, and it will help our entire community by reducing crime, reducing homelessness, and helping empower them to have more resources available to them. And you know, yes, there are some phenomenal nonprofits right here that are serving kiddos, and we want to be able to continue to do that. But in order to do the work, we can't be spinning our wheels, spending all of our time fundraising. We need to be doing the work that's needed. And it's definitely a need that we have in our counties. 10 other counties have it already. I'll let Ed tell you a little bit more about it. Come on up, Ed. Because he's been doing all the research. He's the one who brought it to me about a month ago. We were out trying to gather signatures, and I've got well over 100, almost 200 signatures, but we need to get them in a very short time window. And now it is just as good a time as any to let the people decide on whether or not this is a good idea.
Yeah, we're definitely not going to be able to get all the signatures that we need. We needed to get 3,400, and we couldn't get them. It's just a bad time of year. We don't have enough time to do it. But we need to come to you, and we need your help on this. 1 out of every 5 children that needs mental health in Cole County is getting it. That means that if you've got 100 children, 20 of them are getting help and the other 80 are not getting help. When it comes to the drug problem, 50% of the teenagers over at the high school have at one time or another used drugs of one kind or another. It's not going up slowly, it's going up at a very fast rate. The groups that are helping take care of and help these children can only help so many of them because they don't have the funds to go ahead and help them more than they're helping them now. So where do we get the money? Well, we can't get it locally anymore. We about tapped out with all the fundraising. We got a great community for about 3 or 4% of the people raising the funds to keep all of these groups going. But there is a fund. There is a fund, it's in Missouri, and it's called the Community Children's Services Fund. And it's been being used in 10 different counties. And let me just pass out this stuff while I'm at it. Can you pass those along?
Yeah, I got one.
Yeah, I've got one
Yeah,
of those
got
too.
that. All right. These are the counties that have it now, and we would ask you to call them up and ask them how they feel about what it's done for their county. And I'm sure that you will get some very good results from that. Cole County would benefit greatly from this. The Cole County Health Department, Pringer Center, the public administration. And in time, over time,
They can arrest them for having it in.
what?
Here, let me just get her.
I didn't bring
Over
it.
time, these funds that we would get would reduce the actual cost that it's costing Cole County to run the government. They could take that money and use it elsewhere. And the last thing I've got, and you probably already have this maybe, but this is the process that you go through.
Yep.
If you
Yeah.
put this on the ballot, this is the process you go through. And also, Bill, you want to tell them about the money end of it?
Yeah, we understand that it costs money to put something on the ballot, and we have a very generous donor. Mr. Ed and Mrs. Joe Story have offered to pay the cost to put it on the ballot. So it wouldn't cost the county anything, and the net gain would be allowing the people to decide whether or not this is something that they want in Cole County, and to help our kids and our families. And that's all.
Thank you.
That's all we have to say. We'd really appreciate if you would allow us to do that and see what the people have to say. They put you in office, and they're the ones that you're here representing, and we appreciate that. And I think, we'd like to just allow them to have a voice. Okay?
Okay.
And thanks a lot, gentlemen. I
Thank you.
appreciate your time this morning.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we will
Debbie, get that to Lynn. She-
go back to our regular agenda, appointment by commission,
Regularly scheduled.
reappointment of Greg Bowman and Don Hillis to Public Works Road and Bridge Advisory Board.
We're just gonna do these one at a time.
Well, we could do them all.
I mean, I was hoping that we could, maybe go through the whole list, and, obviously, we have this, other one. I know you sent me the list, but, all the appointments.
Yeah, we're holding off on the residential services till March.
Okay.
So these are the ones that are, okay, we'll do reappointment of Greg Bowman, Don Hillis to Public Works Road and Bridge Advisory Board, reappointment of Jason Gerling and Bruce Bax to Traffic and Safety Advisory Board, reappointment of Victor Rackers and Laura Teskey to Cole County Parks Committee. We'll hold off on the discussion, we'll discuss the Central Missouri Community Action.
They were all good to be reappointed,
Yes,
so,
Yeah.
I'm fine with them. If they're willing to serve, even if they're not willing to serve, we can appoint them and make them serve right.
No.
no, I think most of these have requested, and I appreciate, I'll tell you what, it's,
I thought they can't get off there till they find their own replacement, so,
oh, is that it?
yeah.
Okay.
No, as long as they're wanting to still serve on it, I'm good with it. Haven't heard any problems with it or anything.
So I move that we reappoint Greg Bowman, Don Hillis, Jason Gerling, Bruce Bax, Victor Rackers, and Laura Teskey.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, okay. The Central Missouri Community Action appointment, and I think
Well,
they
that's-
were gonna talk to
Yeah, well,
us.
that's Darren Priest, and so I don't know if you guys want to do that today, but he's wanting one of us to serve, and maybe that's for another meeting. Because I think we need to go over the whole list, to just kind of see who's on what. I mean, obviously, we all got a lot of different boards that we serve on. They sent that to me the other day, and
Well, they told us what day it was, and I think that is an open night, so but we can change some stuff around if it's one you're interested in
it's
serving on.
Thursdays.
But you got another one that conflicts with it, then we can
Well,
switch
yeah,
things around.
evenings can be tough for me,
Yeah,
so.
me too.
Yeah, so maybe we need to have further discussion.
Do that.
Another day, maybe.
Yeah, that's fine.
Unless you're open on Thursday evenings.
Let's
Are
look-
you bowling that night? That's Tuesday.
I don't know. Let's look at it later.
Okay.
We can talk
Okay.
about it and
That's
see
fine.
where we are with all the other ones too, if there's some that we haven't been.
So maybe after the first year, we can take a look at all the whole list of appointments and see if we can get that one. That one was on there, but it just was an
Yeah.
unfilled spot.
Okay, we'll table that till then. Okay, commission comments, none. Bids and contracts, approval and signing of agreement for professional engineering services, Business 50 West Phase 2.
Saw Eric somewhere.
That's up.
Jen, can you find Eric for us, please?
I'm scared to come in.
Signed them all.
Move him down on the list. Who's here? Go. Well, you ready?
Huh? Well, let's,
Keep something rolling.
okay.
Hey, Daniel. The auditors and stuff, not,
You're up. Business 50, professional service, engineering services.
Okay, we've been,
Phase 2.
phase two, as you all know, we've been working on getting the phase two project, ready to go to design. We did phase one back in 2014 with Central Missouri Professional Services was the engineer on the project. And, at that time, we did a partial preliminary plan for phase two. This would be final plans and, some additional preliminary plan work to take the project from where we stopped and basically Babe Ruth Drive area down in the flats at the bottom, take it up to Route T. The project would involve engineering design plans all the way to final plans to get it ready to bid. And the project would be 3 lanes from where we left off with phase one up to Cheyenne Drive, to the west of Cheyenne Drive, and then 2 lanes to Route T with sidewalk on one side. And I have the agreement for professional engineering services ready to be signed and approved, so we can start design next year and go to construction, ready to bid in 2020 for construction in 2020. And the amount is $150,000 or $150,360. And that's a not to exceed amount and paid on an hourly basis. So entertain any questions, and I'd recommend approval if you all are good with that.
So you said design done in 2020 and bidding in 2020 and construction in 2020?
We would complete design in actually 2019, get right of way, whatnot towards the end of that year, and have it ready to go to bid as soon as we can in 2020 for get a full construction season, have it done by the end of 2020.
Okay.
This project is smaller in scope from phase two, and that project was completed in 1 construction season.
And then we were taking it all the way to Route T. You guys are aware of that? Right.
yeah, St. Martin's is trying to get some money from Campo or from MoDOT to do their project too, so.
This project would tie in good with what St. Martin's is
Yeah.
wanting to do in their community and complement everything really good, so.
Yeah, that'd be nice.
You guys good?
Yep.
Good.
You got a contract or?
Yes.
Did you look at it already? Contract?
It's our standard contract, no different than others. Other than the scope and being part of it is catered to this specific project, but the actual contract itself is the same.
It's the same, but different. I'm good with it.
I move that we sign the agreement with Central Missouri Professional Services for the Business 50 West Roadway Improvement Project, Phase 2.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, renewal of 2017-40R1 heavy equipment maintenance, repair, and parts.
We bid this out last year on an as-needed, if-needed basis. There were 3 respondents, Bob Shepherd's and David Cat. They all came back and agreed to extend last year's pricing for this year. So I just need verbal approval to renew for year 2 of 3.
I move that we approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Cole County renewal from Boundtree -2017-39 R1 Medical Supplies.
Same deal, we had bid this out and we awarded it to the lowest and best with available products. Really, the only vendor they've been using is Boundtree Medical, so I got their renewal. It's approximately a 2% increase. It's not locking us into anything with them. I know they're kind of pursuing other avenues too, but it's just something that we have in place. So I would ask that you renew that for year 2 or 3. Just a verbal.
So there's no contract on that?
So. I have their pricing that they submitted, but I have nothing that you need to sign.
I move that we renew medical supplies with Boundtree.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thanks.
Unfinished business. Matt, you want to do the EMS to discuss Sierra wireless equipment?
Yes, sir.
Wasn't there we moved to?
So this is reapproaching the issue that we brought up about 2 weeks ago regarding the Sierra wireless that we'd like to put in all the vehicles. It increases the ability to have that band 14 for the FirstNet safety. The question that you guys had before was the number. 18 was the original requested one. Through the documents I sent you, or the email I sent you, that shows that 18 is still the correct number that need to be installed in those. We had previously done that trial run. It was successful. Brian assisted in that, and he feels and I feel that it's the best option to ensure that we have the proper connectivity.
So 3 for the QRVs,
Yes, sir.
12 ambulance.
14 ambulance.
14, because you'll be adding 2, sir.
14 ambulance, and 1 spare.
There's another command staff vehicle.
Right, so there shouldn't be a spare, there should be.
So 1 more for the command staff.
Right,
no
so there's
spare.
four QRVs and 14 ambulances. If we do this before the first of the year, we'll save that $2,000.
Are we keeping all them QRVs?
Yes, sir, so it would
Did
go.
we decide that?
So I believe in
Thought
math,
we were getting rid of 1, replacing 1.
we're getting rid of 1, we're getting rid of 1, replacing it, and then we're getting another one. Is that correct, sir?
So when we're all said and done, we'll have 4
Right.
vehicles, and then the 14 ambulances.
That's what was requested.
Right.
Have we decided? Because that was a budget discussion, right, with capital? So, I'm okay with saying
I think
we'll
we-
get these 4 of the vehicles that we're gonna have once we approve it. If y'all are all right with all them vehicles, then go ahead and go with it.
I think we had talked about the one Explorer, so.
Either way, you would end up with
Yeah.
four vehicles. Even if you just replaced 1 and we kept the one, you would still have the 4 vehicles.
I thought y'all were adding 1.
We're trying to get rid of the one that has the
Problems?
problems.
Right, but you're gonna replace it and you're gonna add 1.
Correct, which would
Yeah.
create the 4.
Right. Right,
And I was thinking maybe 3 was okay.
right.
So, however y'all wanna do it, if you're both okay with the
Well-
4th one and moving ahead, then let's roll with it. I'm okay with the Sierra.
Good.
Yeah.
And getting it going and saving a couple thousand, I mean, a little bit here and there adds up.
What do you need to move forward? You need a letter of intent, do you need a?
For this, no, I need the actual, we had
PO.
resubmitted the purchase order request.
Okay, so we got a purchase order to sign?
You still have that?
You know you don't get your Corvette now.
No, I'm gonna get that from
Right, but the
emergency.
purchase order from CDW.
Yeah.
Okay. you have
Emergency
that.
management
Okay.
before.
Yep. We'll give you the one that lurches forward.
Okay, I move that we sign a purchase order for Sierra wireless equipment pending approval from Jill.
Second.
Good?
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Accounts payable review.
Are we doing all those today?
I have to approve of accounts
Is that
payable
Friday?
pending review.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So if we don't have any on Friday,
There's
do we have to
also
come
one
in?
on Friday.
We're gonna have a session with
I know,
the
but-
public administrator.
Let's try not to have any.
You're trying to get out of
There's
there.
already some in there for Friday.
Yeah. Okay,
Can we
we're
put
gonna
them in
keep
today's?
transportation.
Yeah, I'm trying to get out.
Planning
Friday.
discussion, MMRPC and MoDOT. We're gonna keep moving along here, by golly.
Larry,
I agree.
Bob, do you mind joining, coming up?
I'll give it a try.
All right. Here's our copy of our list. Jennifer, I'm just gonna pass around, this is kind of our current transportation needs list.
Thank you.
Let me set it up a little bit, because this is a little bit different for us, a little bit different process coming to you all with this list, so.
I'm gonna go ahead and introduce yourself
Sorry.
and your counterparts here.
Sure. This, I'm David Bach with Mid-Missouri Regional Planning Commission. This is Jennifer Bowden on our staff. She's our transportation planner and GIS planner. We have Lynch, Larry Benz serves on our Transportation Advisory Committee. He's the Cole County rep that helps create this list every year, kind of walk through it with us. And so for us, one of the responsibilities of the Regional Planning Commission is to maintain a regional transportation plan for our six-county area. And at the heart of that document is a needs list, transportation needs from all 6 of our counties. And so what we have in front of you is just the Cole County list from last year. And we break it down, high, medium, and low priorities. You see at the top are road and bridge projects in our list, and then you see multimodal projects, which is everything else, which is port, airport, all those can be sidewalks. And so what we're doing this year, instead of just relying on our Transportation Advisory Committee that Larry sits on, we're going out to each county commission and talking through the list and seeing what you want to add. Typically this time of year, we take off projects and put on MoDOT's STIP. Projects that are programmed to be built, we take off the list and clean it up. Then we've also invited the communities in Cole County to participate as well. So we have Campo here, we have St. Martin's, and they want to comment as well. We'd love to have your feedback on the list and anything you'd like to add. So that's kind of the setup. On the list, the first thing I wanted to talk through is just a couple things to come off. The Route H, and then Project 41, and then Project 43, Route A. Those 2
last one.
bridges are on the STIP, so we're going to go ahead and take those off. They're one-lane bridges, and that's always been a priority for MoDOT, is to take care of those one-lane bridges. So that's just a little bit of cleanup. And I should explain this too. In Cole County, you all are a little bit unique because you have Regional Planning Commission, and we cover everything in that map that's in the white. Then you have Campo that takes care of everything. They're the lead planning organization for everything in that green area. Just Cities, Wardsville, Towson, St. Martin's. But we also try to incorporate, if we can, some of their projects in our lists, especially ones that have a regional priority. So something on Missouri River Bridge, or in Boone County, we have the 7063 interchange. So more regional projects that would be on the Campo list would belong on this list as well. So part of what I wanted to get feedback from Larry on and the commission, or if we want to start with first the projects outside of Campo area, are there projects this year that we want to see added to the list, or are there any priorities for lettered route to Toothless Shoulders or anything that you think would be a need?
One I know of, like you said, is the Route A one. There's a couple bridges out there that need to be replaced. Other than the port and those areas, I'd be willing to offer. As such,
So, can you back up a little bit? I mean,
Sure.
So,
Sorry, quick.
anyway, so is this a list of projects that MoDOT is gonna assist with, or is this a list of projects that, all projects within Cole County? So, I mean, off MoDOT right away?
For road and bridge project, we stick to the MoDOT system.
Okay,
And so the intent is it can go from this list and eventually be put on MoDOT STIP to actually be constructed. But typically, this is the opportunity for the counties and their cities to have input onto what they eventually want to see put on the STIP, the road and bridge projects.
okay.
And one thing we can add, because again, we'd like to probably incorporate some Campo projects if they're priorities, especially if they're priorities for the commission. So I think projects we have that are in the Campo region that seem like from Campo's list that might be priorities would be Rex Whitten Expressway, the stoplights are there. That's a major regional bottleneck of traffic, so that's something we could consider potentially adding to the list, might be a good one. We have, we have that currently, but it's a medium priority. I think if it's priority for the commission, maybe a good one to bump up to the high priority. Other ones we could, we have listed in the Campo plan. We already have that intersection of BMW there in Wardsville is listed as a high priority. And then the one we could consider adding would be Ellis Boulevard and 54 congestion. That's one that could potentially go on the list as well. It seems to be maybe a marriage of the Campo and Mid-Mo priorities. And we did, right now we live, it says Callaway County, so it's on the Callaway County side. But in terms of other Campo projects, adding additional lanes on the Callaway County side of the Missouri River Bridge is a priority the Callaway County Commission's already identified as one of their top 3 priorities.
David, if I could, the tri-level as well.
Is that one, that's one?
Our 3 top priorities that the board approved for Campo were the expansion of those lanes on the north side of the bridge, which is in Callaway County, but still a regional project. The tri-level, fixing the tri-level. And then the third one is the Rex Whitten area.
I agree. I think that was one, the tri-level. I think I hadn't seen it on your list under a Cole County project, but I think that's still probably one we would,
Just
from a regional need, probably belongs on the list.
For Campo, those are our top 3.
Campo is your top 3.
Was this a Campo list or is this our list?
That was Campbell's list, is what it was.
Campo's list had the tri-levels.
Right, but that's what I'm asking. Is this Campo's list or is this Cole County's list?
That's a kind of, I think that's what they want to know, is that a priority for you all?
That's just what I'm asking. I'm not
Yeah.
saying it's
Campbell
either
consists of
way,
us,
right?
Jeff City and St. Martin.
Callaway, yeah, St. Martin's one.
St. Martin, Wardsville. That's the list that everyone agreed to. Now, it's up to you. If you want to make something different as a county commission, that's what they're needing the information from you for.
What are the conditions, I mean, to be added to it? What are you looking for? I mean, because we can put Tanner Bridge Road on there. We can put Route M from Taos to Wardsville on there. There's a lot of Cole County that's not inside of Campo.
Right.
So,
I mean, right in from Taos to Wardsville, that would be MoDOT system.
Tanner Bridge wouldn't be. because
we can
that's
give
not
it to
our-
them.
Huh?
We can give it to them. Yeah, okay, so it's gotta be MoDOT, let it
MoDOT
road.
road.
You're right.
So we can't ask for help with one of our roads in the system.
It's mainly on.
Okay, so that knocks Tanner Bridge out, so Route M from Taos to Wardsville. That would be one that I think to take a look at.
My personal complaint is from Route C to across Ellis, that whole interchange up there. You really stack traffic up in there in rush hour.
Mhm.
So,
There is pavement improvements to Route M in the STIP, as well as E and Y and W and J, and a lot of routes in that area that we got planned.
Are y'all widening shoulders on E? Is that in the plan?
I believe E is, and I know M is as well.
Okay, because I was gonna go to E after M, even though in alphabetic it's not right, but, E is terrible because they have a whole lot of tractor trailers coming through there now, because none can speak English, they listen to GPS, they just watch where the arrow goes. So,
Right.
and we get on there and they're tearing the roads up, running people over, running them off the road. those roads aren't made for tractor trailers, so. And then M is typical Cole County road, it's got curves and hills everywhere, so.
Are those already on the STIP or
Yes.
E2?
Yes, it's grouped as a route, you'll see it as a Route M project in the STIP, but then if you read more detail, it'll start breaking down the different routes. Doesn't mention the shoulders in the STIP, but we are looking to add those to M&E and see how far it goes from there. But that would, the 2-foot shoulder widening, and then, which we should be familiar with that, which would include rumble strips. We'll be sensitive to that, obviously, in areas where there's residents, but certainly looking to improve safety with those kind of projects.
I think if the shoulders aren't on the STIP already, maybe that's something we keep on the list then, just to make sure we know it's a priority. And then when it gets completed, like the other projects will take off as it's built. And that seems to make sense. It seems like priority for the commission, so.
So is there any safety data on some of those lettered routes? And, obviously, we're looking at some improvements on Tanner Bridge to improve some safety issues. I mean, every one of those lettered routes probably has some bad spots in them countywide. I mean, so I don't have any data on that, but, if obviously we have people having accidents running off the road in certain areas, I mean, I would think that would be something that we'd want to address or try to look at.
We do have we do have crash data. I mean, typically we can't look at everything in our 6 counties, but if there are specific ones you would like us to take a look at and consider, that we can definitely look into specific intersections.
ODOT's got a good system set up now where you can basically call out a road from point A to point B and look at all the crash data,
Yeah, we actually have examples here. This is just the kind of thing ODOT gives us. Now, this just happens to be for that intersection of Wardsville, but you can get that for pretty well any intersection. So it breaks it down by type of crash, serious or good property damage. You can get some pretty good, those kind of numbers for various intersections, so.
Yeah, what they're referring to is our TMS application, which there's a data zone component of that allows planning agencies, Cole County, to access that and look at the same information we look at. And it goes back, I believe, 9 or 10 years on that data, safety related. And there's other applications that are being applied to that they'll be able to utilize as well. Some things we don't allow people to see the true details of the accident and who was involved and things like that, which we do have that information. But it's a great tool that's going to be available, and we're going to keep adding more information to it. Our plans on the existing routes, not sure where that's at yet, if that's available, but it's developing really every day to make it a very useful tool.
Okay, so I think we
That's a lot.
added several.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think we had several.
yeah.
I mean,
Okay.
one thing we're doing this year, we're trying to push, not as much in Cole County, some of our counties, huge list of projects, and everything's a high priority. So we're trying to get input on what the top 3 road and bridge priorities are in each county. Don't necessarily need that today, but today, or we have a meeting on January 23rd. So if Larry can do that and be able to, before that meeting, come in with the top 3 kind of road and bridge projects, that's what we're asking each county to do, so.
So obviously, Wardsville's doing a study on M, B, and W. I mean, I know it's been a high priority for a long time and nothing seems to get done, so, I mean, maybe it's a high priority, but if nothing happens, I mean, do we want to keep it as a high priority, or do we want to put something else there? I mean, it's
Is that what
just
you're wanting from us then, to rank them how we want them, or how we see them?
Ultimately, we'd like to see the top 3.
What I'd like to see from you all, Bill, take back to the TAC is a list of 3 that you feel is the county's highest priority. Like they said, you don't need to do it today.
Can you get us that information and tell us when you need it by and stay on us for it?
So,
Only she gets it to me.
Right now, it's supposed to be January 23rd. We may have to move the meeting around. There may be a conflict, but yeah, it should be end of January.
Well, I don't care if you email it to us. if you wanna bypass Larry, but
No, we keep Larry. Larry's our man. We're gonna keep him in the loop. but-
So, is this, so is there a pot of money that MoDOT's gonna spend in every county, or how does all this all work? I mean, cause it's what it sounds like is we're competing against other counties to see what projects get done. So it's almost like a grant.
Well, there isn't a pot of money specifically for each county.
Okay?
You know, we develop a STIP each year, it's a 5-year plan, and currently, based on the funding that we have available, we look at taking care of the system first. So, we look at safety issues, we look at the condition of the pavement, and we determine a cycle, it's part of our asset management plan. So there's a cycle developed that different treatments are applied to different pavements based on their condition. And so we have a lot of that data. We know when to overlay Route M, for instance. We look at the accident history along that route. Does it need shoulders or not? In this case, we say yes. It also has to meet a certain threshold for traffic volume to potentially receive the shoulders, because we can't put them on every route. So, and I know, this system has been going on for a while, so you're probably, hopefully, very familiar with it. But what's important is to really still know what your priorities are, because we do sit down, we do look at the list, and if there's a route that you're familiar with, some lettered route that's going to have some economic development along it that you're aware of and we're not, that's important to know. Or maybe a safety issue that we're not seeing that you're concerned about. So we do use that information, and then the funding breakdown for Central District from a statewide perspective, we are allowed to do some extra work beyond just the traditional taking care of the system. We have to meet that goal first, and then based on our distribution, we actually have some room to work with to do some other things. An example is the new interchange down at the lake, at Route W and 54. Typically, some other districts don't have extra funds to do projects like that. So the 3-laning, across the bridge, that's a high priority for Campo, and is that something eventually in the future that we could do? If it's important to Cole County, then we recognize that, and then potentially, if there's funding available, projects like that may move into the STIP. So your priority list is important for various reasons.
So is Route M going to be done? I mean, we've had some pretty horrendous
Yes.
wrecks on that. So that's going to be done.
It's in the STIP, and it has construction funding set up for it, yes.
So can we talk a little bit about these multimodal
Yeah, I
projects
think
that are on the
that's-
list?
I think that's good because the multimodal aren't necessarily things that will go to the STIP, but it's something that's good for, honestly, other grants. We had one in Boone County, a project that was a multimodal that they used for grant application. And it just gives you something else to talk about with grants, and it's a project for the region. So it's I'd love to hear your thoughts on the multimodal.
So obviously, we're still in the, we're progressing along with the port. Like to see that happen. Obviously, some setbacks with some grant funding that didn't come through. I mean, what would be MoDOT's role in helping to do that? Or is there something there, or?
I don't know if MoDOT would necessarily have, they have a very small dedicated freight pot of money, but I think it's maximum around 250 or 500,000.
Yeah, it's small.
It's a pretty small pot. But that could even help with, I mean, again, keeping on the list helps. If something like EDA funding or something else that comes along, any grant you apply for, being able to say that it's a project for a region, I think just helps your case.
Okay.
So.
So then the third track construction, I'm not aware of that. Is that,
That's one that's been on there a while, and I don't remember.
is that in downtown Jefferson City? I mean,
Well, there was talk at one time of one on the west, I'd have to do some research on that, making a place out west of town where we could maybe get rid of some of it downtown. If you all
That's
remember.
what it was. It was on the west side and it was.
It was basically along, I don't remember, I think it was along the southern route, put in a third lane out there where we could maybe move some of the congestion out of the Mill Bottom area.
It was out west.
Yeah.
I mean, it seems to me like if we're gonna pursue a port, that
Well,
we would move it east,
Well, that could be possible.
and we would move it all east. I mean, we would move that station and everything east to try to, that's just my thought, that makes
Well,
more
the station
sense.
probably wouldn't be as conducive moving it out there just because of bus service and stuff, you know, being able to get it to local services, transportation. That'd be the only, but the track, you know, I think that's where Union Pacific had ones that looked at it, because there had been talk about trying to move all of the storage and switching from down in the Mill Bottom area out to a different area, so. But it, like I said, it's been on there a long time. We really haven't visited it since the board came up.
That project, when I worked at the RPC, that project was on the list, and I had the same question, what is this? So it's been on the RPC list, it's been on the
That's
NPO
something we
list
probably-
for a very
Right.
long time.
Yeah.
So I don't know
Right.
if it's still even,
That project was in transformation that the chamber had proposed. The purpose was to get the downtown area, get the trains out of there to where you could have better access to Main Street Island and the river. So,
I'm good with that. I mean, my opinion, I mean, if you're gonna do multimodal stuff at a port facility, you need extra track out there, so you could move it all to the same general area. Be able to stage, you know, a unit train out there instead of in downtown. So, just seems to make more sense.
Well, we've been talking sidebar here. What they're gonna do is forward the two lists, the RPC list that's been put together, as well as the Campbell list, if you all can review that. Once Dave gets it to me, I'll forward it on, and I'll stay on you to try and get your list back, so,
Your top three,
for top three, if we can agree to that, if you all,
Okay.
all right?
All right.
Yep.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you all, appreciate it.
I'm sorry.
Kinda shut you down,
Okay.
didn't they?
Okay. Care leave recommendation.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
You want to move me, I can wait if you want to do some of this.
You're gonna be quick, aren't you, Larry?
Yep,
Yeah,
I'll be real quick.
Against my better judgment, first I want to thank Sheriff Wheeler. He challenged his staff to contribute hours to the Care Leave program, and they volunteered or gave up over 200 hours for the Care Leave program, which is a significant contribution and very much appreciated. And I'm hoping, since I said kind words about him, that he'll let me use his IT person every now and then. So. The Care Leave Committee met yesterday. This was the second part. We always do our recommendations in a 240-hour span or 30 days. This was an individual that had a back injury that is going to be off work for 6 months. We approved the next 200, or the what's left of 240 hours that that individual could get from the Care Leave program, and we ask that the commission approve that donation of hours to that individual so that they will receive payment in that for those 240 hours.
This is for another 240.
Yep. And that's their final that they could get.
Okay. They're maxed out at so much.
They're maxed out at 480.
I move that we approve the recommendation from the Care Leave Committee.
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Thank you.
Change
Thank you, Larry.
order for Crossroads Subdivision Stormwater Project Daily.
I had sent you all a couple spreadsheets as we've been getting a little closer to the end of this project to kind of let you know kind of where we're tracking as far as final cost. And we've gotten to the point that we're paid out to the bid amount, original contract amount. We've ran into some issues, and we kind of knew this. One item, and I'll just go through the list here. We did run into some overruns for the project as a whole. Some just overruns of bid quantity, bid items, some additional items. And I have the list there in front of you. Should have been as part of the agenda. Subgrade stabilization was the biggest hit. We ran into some areas that were bad on Greenbrier and Rustic Lane. And that amount, that additional amount is $161,220. So that'll take up the majority of the overruns, plus the geotextile fabric that goes with that. When we bid the project, we did not have class or rock, depth of rock analyzed as part of the design process, and so we had a statement in the plans that we would address class 3 excavation as if it is encountered and negotiate a price. And so that amount is $37,800. The other 3 items are just miscellaneous things that kind of came up through the project. Typically, we wait till the end of the job and bring all the final cost to you at one time, but since we're getting a little bit above and beyond what we can pay out at this point, and not to have the contractor sitting on that money, waiting on that, I wanted to bring to you a change order now in the amount of $225,680.67. This will not be the final. It will be a little higher, but not substantially higher from what this amount is. And it'll just be what the final culmination of quantities and all that to get the project done. And we'll do that at final closeout. We have a 5% retainage, which on this job will be about $100,000, which we have that room in there to finish out the job, get everything paid out, except for the retainage, and then bring to you the final closeout change order and clean everything up at that point. So I'd recommend approval of this change order, and this will allow us to be able to make a payment, keep us up to date with the pay run that'll go at the end of this week.
So what was completion date of that?
November 17th. We're kind of going back and forth on what a new completion date should be. We ran into a lot more utility work than anybody had anticipated, and then the additional class 3 excavation work plus the subgrade stabilization added to the completion date on the job. So at this point, we wouldn't recommend charging any liquidated damages, but we're going to decide on what a date should be to get what we would call the
Yeah, I mean, we
finished
can
work
look at
grading
that
work
part
and-
when it's done, but I'm just wondering if we need to hold out more to get them done. When are they gonna be done?
Well, they'll be done with all the concrete work, maybe by the end of this week. We're really close. We just got a few more driveways to do.
So when are they gonna be done?
I don't know.
That's the
Depends on the
problem
weather.
out there, because I'm getting those phone calls every week, and it's annoying. I know that making them improvements, once it's done, it's gonna be great, but some of the ways they've done things, I don't know.
Their method of construction was different than we anticipated. We don't specify typically how they have to proceed with the job.
Right, and I
We will
understand
after
that's
this
our own
point.
fault, because we didn't specify they had to get this part done, be done with it, and get it cleaned up, but when you have some elderly people that show up and they can't pull in their driveway and they got no groceries, it's pretty upsetting. And I drove out there several times, and you had to have four-wheel drive to get through there sometimes, so, I mean, some rock, so.
Well, to answer your question, when will they be done? I would expect final seeding and all that to be done early spring. I don't know how much finish grading they'll be able to do with the weather. Right now, it's relatively dry and they can get some things kind of roughed in, but you really don't want to seed too much. I mean, you can put down some temporary seeding, but to do final seeding will have to be in the spring. We have a 1-year warranty period. That seed that they do will not take very well, most likely, and they'll have to come in and reseed, overseed in the fall. And so realistically, the project minus the seeding, is gonna be done in the spring, but if people expect, you know, their yards to look great and all that, that's probably not gonna happen until the fall. But that is covered under the warranty period.
So when will they, I mean, you said they have a little bit of concrete work to do. I mean, obviously all the asphalt, the finished asphalt's done. I mean, some approaches, what are they?
I mean, we'll be done completely with all the concrete work, except for maybe a few spot things here and there. Likely the end of this week, if not the end of next week.
So they're still working on a few approaches and different things?
The majority of them, like I said, they've been knocking them out. They worked even all last week during the weather when it was bad. They're getting these driveways knocked out, get it fast.
So substantially complete by the end of the year, hopefully.
Yeah, and that, I like to call substantially complete even the seating. I know that's kind of a.
That's a pretty
gray
minor
area.
amount in the
Yeah.
whole contract.
I mean, I would expect that substantially complete would also include getting basically all the yards at least rough graded, not just sitting there looking, you know, like they're undone. At least get something knocked down and halfway graded in there. They're not gonna leave and just go off until all that's done. We'll withhold payment until that gets done. The only thing that we would be holding it, once that is done, would be the retainage, which we would hold anyway until everything's completed and all the final paperwork is done. So we have enough money there to keep them on the job. They're not gonna go anywhere. The big question is, how long will people have to wait for their yards to get back to where they really need to be? And realistically, it'll be the fall. Now, it'll be seeded in April, but unless the people water the yards and things go good through the summer, it's not gonna turn out very good. So, we'll have some semblance of yards, but it's not gonna be what people expect or what I would expect. So, we'll be back in the fall redoing everything. But bottom line for, you know, what we would call substantially complete, somewhat loose term, I would say, you know, into part of next month, depending on the weather and how long it takes them to get some of these yard areas at least graded and knocked down.
So are we gonna require them to do some temporary mulch and different things to keep mud from being all over the street?
Yes.
Erosion controls back in
Yes.
place, or?
Yeah, they have most of the erosion control stuff in place. There's some areas that we need to address in some of the fill locations. The temporary mulch, temporary seeding, there's some places we'll definitely want to do that. When you do that, you know, if you don't get anything even growing, then you're kind of left there with a bunch of straw that's just going to blow everywhere and not really do a whole lot. So we got to be kind of strategic in how we do that, not overdo it to the point that it causes a problem for us. So, this year, November was a very bad month for getting things done. Had we had a full month in December, or November, it'd been a little bit different.
But everything before that was perfect. So.
For the most part, yes.
And I understand they had more stabilization and stuff to do down below, but that road makes a circle. So if they could have had that torn up, and maybe that took longer, and then finished the rest of the stuff, it would make a whole lot of difference, so. I mean, the change order is what it is.
I mean, the change order, those are true cost to do the job. Our biggest thing right now really is the methodology of how they went about doing the project.
My biggest thing, I'm just frustrated with it, so I just want it done with.
We are too.
So-
But things have changed a lot since they got it paved, which that was up against, I mean, it was a big deal.
Well, I guess so, after 2 months. All them guys out there with their bass boats aren't happy. Pulling through there, stuck in the driveway.
This will be the last big job like this that I would recommend doing. They're too big to be able to do. Even with, I mean, we do a good job at least keeping track of it, but it's too much for one subdivision to handle. We won't do any this big, and there's really none to do this big anymore, so we've gotten through a lot of
I
them
just
over
think
the
it needs
past
to
few
be done
years.
in phases.
We would
I think that would
recommend
made a difference,
phases.
so I'm fine with us moving with it. I bitch about it all day if I want to, so. Oh, you're probably tired of hearing it too.
I mean,
Eric's done all like in Westview, he's been going through there and replacing a lot of the stormwater drainage and stuff ahead of time. You know, at the point we have to redo that subdivision, and most of that underground work will be done and work will proceed a little
it sounds good to do all the work at once, that way you only mess people up for 1 year, but there's a limit to how effective that is, and when you get too big with a project, it just overwhelms what the people there can handle living through, and that,
One way in, one way out.
yeah, so we learned some lessons. I mean, the end result, it's a good project, definitely, it's a big improvement for the area, we just had to suffer through maybe a little more than what we expected, but, you know, being that it's the biggest job, stormwater job we've ever done, you know, I don't think it went too bad. You know, definitely the end result will be good, so, no complaints there, it's just getting through the process was a little difficult. Any other questions?
I move that we approve change order number 1 for Crossroads Southtown Estates.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, Rick, get up here.
Yes, sir.
Quick, then run like hell.
When did Matt send that presentation? Did he send you one?
I haven't seen it.
Okay, I talked to him earlier, I thought he said he sent one. Hey, Matt, did you email that presentation? Oh, to Debbie. I see how you are. It's Christmas time. I remember this. I have friends in North Places. Did you forward it? Oh.
Not is here to help with the
Morning.
Morning.
2019 renewal for liability, property, and casualty, and
Property, casualty, auto, law enforcement liability, et cetera.
he's been working on this price since June of this year.
Yes.
Currently, we are with MoPerm. We've been with MoPerm for quite some time. So I'm gonna let Rick take it from here.
Well, that is correct, and I'd like to first of all thank you guys for your service that I've watched you hard at work this morning. Thank you. But I'm Rick Knott with Knott Insurance, and this is Tish Fowler that works with our public entity business as well. We also want to thank Debbie for her hard work putting all this stuff together. We've given you a proposal. This year, we've got 3 different companies that we're looking at. It's been a very long time since we've been able to find any carrier that would provide us occurrence form, which is what MoPerm has provided since about '86, I think. So the Travelers and also the third company, the One Beacon Company, also offers the occurrence form. And the next problem that we were not able to overcome until this past August, in fact, and that is the large deductible requirement for wind and hail. All of our companies were requiring on the huge buildings like the jail, the courthouse, the annex building. And they have agreed, Travelers and One Beacon, to be equal or match the MoPerm $5,000 deductible, all perils. We have quite a number of comparisons in your packet there, just behind the premium breakdown. But you'll see on that premium breakdown, it's a substantial pricing difference to look at. I know Debbie has worked with this, done a lot of comparison. Don't know, Debbie, how you wanted to pursue through this.
Okay. Well, definitely the renewal with MoPerm was like their normal renewal. They would come in and up the values of our buildings to what they thought was the right thing to do every year. As you can see, theirs and the value of our vehicles do increase. We drop off old, we get new. So their overall increase was over about 7%.
Correct.
Taking
Yeah.
away the increase in the value of some of our properties. So then when Rick went, got these other quotes from Travelers and One Beacon, comparing basically the same thing, and you can see by the notes on page 4, 5, and 6, breaking down the 3 vendors per category and trying to compare them. So we went through the comparisons. The one big thing that maybe MoPerm offers that the other carriers don't is there's, maybe you can explain the difference with
The
the.
aggregate.
Yeah, the aggregate.
Right. MoPerm has a $2 million per occurrence limit, but they do not have an aggregate. So therefore, we could have 4 or 5 outstanding claims paying a maximum of $2 million. Highly unlikely, but could happen. The Travelers and One Beacon have a lower aggregate limit, $4 million. But that's one place, and if we'll slip down to the bottom of the page there on the Travelers, they're offering a 2.8 million limit versus the 2 million with MoPerm and One Beacon. That's substantial, and those would be claims that were brought outside of our sovereign immunity cap. If a claim hit federal court, for example, or maybe a employment-related practices claim that might not be covered under the sovereign immunity, that limit, instead of 2 million, would be 2.8 million with Travelers. Substantial difference there. Debbie mentioned the property values. Travelers has a considerably higher limit of property coverage in their schedule as well versus the other 2 companies.
So even more value to our buildings, even at lesser cost for Travelers. Even though the occurrence may not be at the top of the ceiling, they will also offer additional on page 6 to bring that value up to another 5 million, would cost about $16,600 a year. So it's kind of what your comfort level is. Past history, we've never been close to that, so.
Right, that is correct. And I would also add that if we did take the $5 million umbrella, and I would strongly encourage that, we would bring our per occurrence, instead of the MoPerm 2 million, we would raise it to 2.8 million with Travelers and an additional $5 million on top of that limit. So it'd be 7.8 million. Will we ever have a claim like that? We certainly hope not, but it has happened if they get outside the sovereign immunity cap.
Just by reviewing and going over most of the comparisons between the 3 companies, I think we're both suggesting that we move to Travelers for the year 2019. They've also even given us a letter stating that the next couple of years, they would hold the premium to 5.
That's correct. We received, I've never seen one before, but this came down with an officer of Travelers offering a quasi-guarantee, if you will, a 5% increase at renewal, each 2 renewals, if our loss ratio stayed at 40% or less. So it wasn't a guaranteed, we'll never raise your rates. And of course, even looking at MoPerm, we're looking at a 7 to 12% increase naturally. And I think we all assume we're going to have some increases during the year. But that 5% commitment was huge.
I think Debbie and Rick both have a comfort level with Travelers, and I know Debbie's spent a lot of time, researching, making sure that we've got everything covered that we did have covered in MoPerm. And so, I mean, there is some substantial savings there, and I think Travelers would be the right company to go with, but I would like to see us do the $5 million umbrella with that, along with that policy, just so that our exposure is not so great, so.
I'm fine with Trail. I have them over at my business, so they're getting a little more aggressive.
Very much so.
Yeah.
Right. They're a huge rider of public entity business currently. Very strong company. And I would like to also add, since the sheriff's here.
We could have him leave.
Well, you'll see our premium variances on law enforcement liability, particularly with MoPerm. and a long inspection of our jail facility and visiting with staff, you'll see that they have a substantial part of that reducing our premium, total premiums.
And they do
Was
offer.
that- Was that due to the facility or his staff?
Well,
It's gotta be the facility.
50/50, you got that, John?
Well, they did come and visit the facility.
They did.
They were quite impressed.
Yes.
And they sat down with me and my staff for a couple hours.
And they do offer some of the risk management stuff that we currently have with MoPerm. That is the
Yes.
training stuff and the.
Online training, yeah.
Yeah, they do offer a lot of that stuff and, so it'd be a change, but, and anything that happens this year will still be covered by MoPerm and they'll finish up
Correct.
any of that. Anything that may come up next year, but it happened last year, then that is still on MoPerm.
Correct.
So, and it would be the same if we leave travelers, so that's a big thing.
You good with it, Jeff?
Yeah, I appreciate the exercise y'all went through to get to this point. The umbrella part, I don't know, what's the chances of us ever having something like that?
Well, there's no limit with MoPerm, so, I mean,
But,
so once you get to 2.8, we're on the hook after that, right?
yeah.
It depends on the type of
Well,
claim.
correct. The per claim would have been 2 million with MoPerm and versus 2.8 was travelers. Then if we do go the umbrella, it'd be on top of that. Generally speaking, where we're going to May, right into that.
I mean, the way I'm looking at it is we're saving money on it, and to add that sense of, I don't know, just have some kind of safety behind us if something did happen, it's probably worth it.
Right.
But also, do you spend 16,000 more too? That's what it is, right, for the
Right,
5 million?
yeah.
So you spend 16,000 more if you don't need it. It's like buying diapers when they're on sale. If you don't need them, there's no sense in having them. So, I'm okay with it. Is that what you recommend, Debbie?
Yes.
I got allergies all day long.
They're good. I always enjoy listening to them,
When's the
too.
last time you bought diapers?
He's buying male diapers now.
Grandma.
You're taking the chance and buying the umbrella as with any insurance. You're hoping to never use it, but you're investing that
Right.
money. And it's still with that extra umbrella, you're still under the MoPerm renewal premium. You're still
Yep.
saving.
Substantially, yes.
Yep, absolutely. That's the exact point, so.
So do we need to sign a contract, or how do we do all that?
If we,
A letter of commitment from
Okay.
the commission.
I move that we sign a letter of commitment to move to Travelers Insurance and add the $5 million umbrella.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Ma'am.
I'll let y'all have that. Yeah.
Oh, you don't
If
want
I
that
got-
for some reading?
No, if I got a question, I'll call Talisha. There you go. Sorry, Rick.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
See y'all. Merry Christmas.
All right.
Okay, discussion of ambulance approval for 2019.
Morning. What job did you get put last? What job did you get put last?
You know.
Sam even moved some people up.
Right. Right, do you have the presentation? Okay. So she's gonna put a, kind of a PowerPoint presentation that we put together, on the screen for you. And if you can put it in presentation mode. Here, I can show you. Excuse me, as you're aware, we've been researching the need for having 2 additional ambulances placed into our fleet. The 2 ambulances would be additional ambulances that we would add. The 2 that we would take out of frontline service would go into our reserve fleet to serve as backups. The current issue that we're having is there are consistent and numerous issues with the maintenance on the chassis that we're trying to get corrected when we can. And so we're trying to get those in. The reason why we need those 2 additional in the fleet is because the maintenance issues are so frequent. We're getting to a point where we have, 1 ambulance or no ambulances left. And then we're trying to rush through to get the repairs complete to get them back in service. So this will give us a little bit of a buffer in order to have those units available. So the good part is we haven't had an impact where we've had to place a unit down because of maintenance where we've not had units still available. So the way this process worked was as we looked at numerous manufacturers throughout the industry, the ambulance conversion industry. We looked at Horton ambulances, we looked at Braun ambulances, we looked at Demir ambulances, we looked at Ostage Industry ambulances, and a few others. And so what we did is we looked at them, we called on some customers, and then also used our own personal experiences when we were evaluating that process. We've narrowed it down to 2 ambulances, and we're going to present those to you today, and then have you guys decide which route you would like us to take. Next slide, please. So the 2 that were narrowed down were Osage and Demir's. If you look at them, they're relatively similar as far as, a standard Type 3 is what you'll see there. A Type 3 is a van front that has a walk-through, if you will, in the front. So next slide. There's different types of chassis. There are 2 chassis that we requested to be quoted. There's the Ford E450, which is a van front, which is a gas model, and then the Ford F450, which is a diesel model and a 4x4 configuration. Each offers advantages and disadvantages. You have greater torque with the diesel, and the fuel for gas is cheaper currently. There's a slightly different wheelbase, meaning the ability for turning radiuses and things like that. So that's probably a better way, is that the turning radiuses can be different. And the cost of maintenance, diesel is higher on parts and labor with anything, so that's a consideration to take in it as well. So that's what the front of a F450 would look like. Next slide. And that is the front of what an E450 would look like. The total cost difference is about $42,061. That's for the 2. And so when we're talking about this, we're talking about the 2 chassis, not one chassis specifically. So our department requirements, some of the things that we talked about was the NFPA 1917 standard. There are 3 standards that are currently accepted out in the industry. There's a KKK standard, which is a federal government standard. That's kind of getting phased out. The GSA has put out that they're going to be stop supporting that standard, though others are saying that they may continue to do it. So that one's kind of up in the air, but that's the KKK. There's also the CAS standard, which is the accreditation agency, but they also have their own standard. And there's the NFPA 1917. The 1917 standard is considered the safest for the patients and for the crews, based on some of the safety requirements that they require in their standards. State of Missouri requires that we are one of those compliant, and so we have to meet one of those standards. So we've chosen the NFPA 1917 for that reason. Some of the things that gives you is under cab lighting and under module lighting. And so what that does is when an employee steps out of the ambulance or a door is open, it lights the ground around the ambulance so that they know, are they stepping into a hole? Are they going to trip on something? So it can help reduce our workers' comp liability. Restraint harnesses, so in the different areas of how you're restrained in the CPR seat, the airway, or the side seat. It does require a seatbelt monitoring system, so if one of our crew members puts the seatbelt on or puts the seatbelt in but then sits down, the system will alarm up front and tell the person driving the ambulance that someone's not properly seatbelted in. So they have to sit down and put their seatbelt on. If they just sit down, the alarm goes off as well. So it's a smart sensing process, so it knows that someone is being properly protected in the back. It does require a carbon monoxide monitor in there as well. That is something that can happen as those gases can get into the patient care compartment as well. And then there are other requirements per the 1917, but those are just some of the other things are like the oxygen has to be sealed off from another compartment with no gear in it, and several other things. Heating and cooling year-round is for the proper storage of medication. What we don't want to do through the U.S. Pharmacopoeia is we don't want to go too high or too low in our temperatures because it can adulterate the medications. So it's a standard that we're trying to do. That is also a CAS standard for the accreditation process, is we have to show not only do we monitor our temperatures, but do we also make sure that we don't have those great variances in them. The mobility seat for crew safety, that's something that we feel is important. It helps keep the responder seated throughout the call as much as possible, but it allows them to still gain access to the patient and be able to work efficiently and effectively on them while remaining safe. The child restraint system, that goes up in the airway seat, so it folds down and you're able to put a child securely in the ambulance during transport if needed. During 60-degree camera for accident avoidance. What this does, it also records in the vehicle, so we can use that for insurance purposes. So if we have a dispute of how the accident happened, this will record and kind of show that 360 view outside of it. It also allows that while we're driving, if we are going to get in the left lane and we're not sure if someone's over there, we can look and we can be able to see that environment around our ambulance. The controlled substance safe. Currently our ambulances have a wooden safe in it with a lock in it. And it's really not as secure as what they should be. Not that it doesn't meet the standard now, it's probably not the best. It's something that you could get into and could take those controlled substances. So one of the things that we did spec in these is to have an actual safe that is mounted in. It has an RFID chip and a pin. So we are able to track what employee gains access to those controlled substances when, and then they would pass that RFID tag back and forth at shift change, so they maintain positive control instead of passive control as it was before. And then there are other different specs. All the manufacturers of the two that we've narrowed this down to were able to meet the specification standards that we put out there. One of them was only not able to do 4 of them, but they were 4 that we didn't feel were enough to exclude them at all. They were relatively minor things, and so we felt comfortable moving forward. So the one on the left is Emergency Services Supply. They're the ones that are the dealer for the Osage ambulances. And then First Priority Emergency Vehicles is the Demers dealer. And so what happens is we buy those from the dealers. We don't buy them directly from the manufacturer, but through the dealers that are located here in the United States. Go ahead and click next. So on the Emergency Services Supplies, the subtotal of options was about $83,000. The base price was $128,930, and so the total unit price for one unit was $207,530. Next, please. And next. First Priority through the Demers ambulance, so their base price was $138,905. Their options came out to about $29,835, and then the custom features that we had that put in, again, both ambulances had those, was about $27,000. When you break it all down, their ambulance for one unit was $190,900, and so their second unit goes to $190,400. So you do get a $500 savings at that point. Next slide, please. So the price difference per unit is $16,630, and that does not include any HGAC fees of about 2%. And so what HGAC is a cooperative purchasing agreement, and they have about a 2% per ambulance fee that they charge versus others that will have. And so through the First Priority, it's a $500 flat per PO, so you can put 1 or you can put 20 ambulances on. It's just $500. So there is a difference in that cooperative purchasing process. Next, please. So when you break it down, the county authorized for 2 ambulances $470,000. So that came out to $235,000 per unit. So the ESS unit on the left for unit 1 was $207,530, and the second one had the same cost for a grand total of $415,060. If you add in a 2% for the HGAC, that's per unit is $4,150 for a total of just about $8,300. When you add in the striker cots and the loading system that we had done separately and not within the actual process in this, those are each together $34,352. So those for two, the strikers would be $68,704 for a grand total of $492.65. From the first priority side, Unit 1 was $190,900, and that was with the SAVIC built into that first unit. And then the second unit was $190,400 for a subtotal of $381,300. The striker cot and load again was $34,352, and the total striker again was $68,704. That grand total was $450 and $4. Next. So they're over budget on the emergency services supplies by $22,065. Next, please. And the first priority is under budget by $19,996. Next, please. So the total cost difference of the units are $42,061 with the HGAC. And if you don't use the HGAC, they would still be $33,370 in a price range difference. So we would be paying more. So that's the presentation of them from a financial standpoint, and that's what we wanted to focus on with you guys was the financial side, because we did have a set budget that we needed to stay within. Questions?
Those are both the E450s?
Those are the E450s, yes, sir. In order to do the F450s, you would be looking right around from the emergency services. I believe the difference was $20,500, and from the first priority, they were $19,500 different. So let me get that so I don't misquote it.
But either way, that was gonna put us over budget if we went to the F450.
Yeah, so
and
it was
four-wheel drive, right?
Yes, so it's four-wheel drive. So for the total, with including the conversion from the emergency services supply was $228,440, and from first priority it was $210,450. So you're looking at a
20 grand a piece.
Yes, sir.
Basically. Okay. Well, that's what I'm working for, is that number that we had budgeted, and we'll work backwards from it, so if we want to get a truck later on, we can look at doing that later on. I want to keep it under budget this year.
I would ask that both comparable in construction of the box.
So they're both made differently, the way that they go through the assembly process, but when you break it down, they're comparable in that there's a, one is lighter than the other, just because of the materials and the fashion that it's made. However, as far as testing, both appeared to have passed the different standards.
We've got the Osage, and we've went and looked at the other ones up at Florissant.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, so we've seen them.
I haven't really seen the Osage.
So we've had Osages, my understanding is since the department was formed,
Yeah.
and so all of our trucks are Osage
Yeah.
currently.
I don't have any more questions about them. I mean, I think you went through due diligence, got it spec'd out the way we wanted it. We had an amount to work with.
I need to approve this before the end of the year.
Yes, sir.
To be purchased next year?
So the PO will be issued next year, but we have to issue the letter of intent. So whoever we would go with would be issued the PO at delivery time. So,
We have Osage here. John, do you want to say anything?
Yeah, if I might, a couple questions for Matt.
I need to come up to the table. It's just recording, it's not amplifying or anything.
The HGAC fee, while maybe not significant, is inaccurate. HGAC is $1,000 per transaction, and that includes any amount of ambulances you want to buy. It's not a 2%.
okay, well, so then this person I spoke with at HGAC was incorrect. So,
Secondly, I'm curious why you went with first priority for the Demers representation when there's a different dealer representing Missouri
so
here.
they're working in conjunction together.
Okay. And finally, what was the cutoff date for submission of all bids? I had asked you about that earlier, and I wasn't sure that was a clean cutoff date for all companies supplying their bid at the exact same date and time.
So it was done through a cooperative, as you and I emailed back and forth, or you or Dan, I'm not sure which one it was, that it was done through a cooperative, so there was not a cutoff date because they were already competitively bid through those cooperatives. And so that was known to both both companies when we, through correspondence, that they would be through cooperative purchases. So there was no official cutoff date. We asked each company to supply their best bid.
So just so I'm clear, one company could have submitted a number to you on Monday, and somebody else could have submitted to you on a Wednesday, and somebody else could have submitted to you on a Friday.
Correct, because they're cooperative purchases.
I think that's all I have.
Okay, thank you. I move that we sign a letter of intent with first priority to move forward with the Demers ambulances.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I'm going to abstain.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks, Matt.
Anything else?
So we're finishing budget up tomorrow?
Yeah, because I think Kristen's is supposed to have. That's why I got nothing. We're starting at 8 o'clock too. Do we have anything else
Tomorrow at 8?
tomorrow at 8? I might even bring,
Cool.
I know it said 8 to 11. I mean, do we think we're gonna be done by 11? I mean, I just,
ask Kristen. If we start at 8 tomorrow morning,
Hope so.
I would assume so.
So what time do we have to be done today? I mean, can we do some of it today, or y'all have to get out of here?
we didn't have it on the agenda.
So business. So what you're thinking it's gonna take longer tomorrow?
Well, I'm not saying it's gonna take longer, but I mean, if it's on the agenda till 11 and we go till noon or 1, I just wanna be done tomorrow. So I don't care if it's on there for the whole day till 5 o'clock.
I would like to be done tomorrow as well. We both have things that we need to
So-
get updated in the budget as far as carry forwards and things like that, and other things to get done before the end of the year. We kind of need to know where you want to be. Hey, Jeff, can you work on this? Okay.
Well, I went ahead and scheduled stuff for tomorrow at like 11, so.
we're gonna go fast.
Because we had on the agenda till 11, so I was
We're
like,
gonna
okay.
go-
So what do you
I
got?
thought the only thing we had on there was salary.
So you got a party tonight, or are you gonna come in argumentative tomorrow, or?
I do bowl tonight. Depends. If I have another
Are you
three,
gonna bowl another perfect game?
if I have another 300, then it's probably gonna be rough. No, I honestly, I don't think there was a whole lot we had to go through besides the salary thing, and that depends on if we all three want something different, and we can, I mean, it can take us forever.
I don't think it's not gonna take. We're
Well,
gonna-
how do you know that?
I've got my
I mean-
fingers crossed. and
So
my-
you're just
and
saying
my
you're gonna
rabbit's
agree with
foot-
one of us at
And
some
my
point.
rabbit's foot in my pocket and.
What if us two are so far away from each
Yeah,
other?
what if I won a
And you're like
20% COLA?
in the middle.
No.
And Jeff doesn't want any.
And we'll compromise in between.
Hey, I
But
do
neither
have
one of us
old-
agreed to that.
I do have old business.
Yes, ma'am.
So the agreement for the Rave Alert 911, Lynn has the contract, I have not signed it, because we need to know what account we want to pay for that out of. Are you wanting to take it out of EMS sales tax, because that's where it was this year, and decide where to pay the ongoing fee from for next year in the budget process? Is there somewhere else you want to pay for that?
I'm fine with
out of?
taking it from wherever we had it in for this year, and then ongoing, we can figure out where we're going. That's just me. So,
Yeah, just trying to take it out of emergency management because that's where the Corvette comes out of.
here I am trying to be serious, saying.
Emergency management doesn't have any money
Well, I know, but
anyway.
that's where Cape Girardeau County got it.
No Corvette.
Got their what? Suburban?
That Tahoe.
Hey, you can have the one from,
I'm talking
Emergency
about the
Services.
Suburban. I'm talking about that black Suburban that Clint drives.
Oh, it's a Suburban now. It was a Tahoe.
Matt's got one he needs to get rid
We
of.
got new one.
Lurches a little bit. So, if y'all are okay taking it from that, continue to take it from, or take it from the one that was in for this year, that's fine. Otherwise, we have to figure out where it's coming from, and if you got a better idea, I'm open to it.
I'd go with you.
There you go.
Okay, so Lynn, as soon as they get a PO order, I can send that contract.
Well, tomorrow you'll have to figure out where you want the onboard cost to go.
I'll tell you where I want to go.
Kristen, where's it coming from now?
It's not gonna go away.
EMS sales tax.
Figure out
When
what
that
that
goes next.
As they say in Christmas vacation, bend over and I'll show you.
Another topic, while we're talking
Where you gonna
about.
put a
Not
tree?
you.
Where you gonna put a tree that big?
Focus.
I wasn't talking to you.
Shiny.
Okay, serious,
While we're
serious.
talking about 911, do you have any questions about 911 you'll want to ask the sheriff? Because we did bring up the regular 911 fees in the last budget discussion. Are you all wanting to change that in any way? Should you want to talk to him about that?
What were we changing? Refresh
Well,
my memory.
we had talked about that possibly.
Oh, 'cause we thought that
more
shouldn't
of it
take as
should be
much.
the sheriff and less of it should be EMS.
Well,
or-
Chris said that. Don't put that on all of us.
Okay.
John's
I
right
think
there.
we're looking, I think we're
John's right
looking at
there.
some
He
other
hears you.
options for 911. So I don't know.
I just, he's here if you have
John has
questions
been
or you
working,
want to talk about
working on
that.
some things too, but I don't think it's something we're ready to.
Okay, so leave it the same for
Yeah.
now.
I'm fine leaving it the same for now, but I'm not opposed to looking at different things.
No, I
that
think we need,
You had
we
mentioned.
need to look at.
It's
So we need more money in GR, so we gotta take it from somebody.
sheriff.
That's right.
Well, I was just talking to Matt out there, and he's busy right now, and he said any money that I need in the sheriff's department, I can take out of his budget.
He's already over budget. so
Yeah.
we're gonna-
So he doesn't want animal control. I mean, if those
No,
things,
no,
those
I
things
don't
would
want him to have
hold.
animal control.
Oh, those boxes would
That's
work
going
good.
to where?
Just put a cage in there.
I think we could put in, whoever handles parking here could handle.
You don't want my kind of animal control. I had to catch one this weekend too.
Okay.
He didn't like me when I got hold of him. I got him by the collar and he had to go home, poor guy. When the neighbor said there's running around, he came to me and I just got hold of the collar because he wanted to chew my arm off. He was all nice and happy when I was like, come here, buddy.
We're still on. What- Anything
Okay,
else?
so mainly
I didn't do
tomorrow
anything
is
wrong.
salaries and any other little things that you want to clean up.
Yeah, I don't think there's little things, but I think there's a lot of salary things.
Yeah.
HR,
Salary can go 1,000 different ways.
Yep.
And that's why I don't see that going too fast tomorrow.
So you want to go longer than 11, you don't want to go longer
well,
than
Jeff
11?
needs to be out here at 11, so, I mean.
I want to be done tomorrow.
I do too.
Got other stuff to do.
Okay, well, we're gonna,
Well, want and done could be different. So, I'm not saying that it ain't gonna happen, but,
We
you
still
know,
have Friday on the agenda.
I realize that, so.
it's the
Do you know
longest
what
we've
else
ever
is
spent
Friday?
on budget.
The Friday before
Uh-huh.
Christmas.
Is the budget on Friday's agenda?
It can be.
Let's see where we get tomorrow.
Yeah, it
Obviously,
can
we'll
be.
have 24 hours to post it on Friday if we need to.
So you said some cleanup things. Can you get us a specific list of what we need to be prepared to fight over or to
I don't
clean
have
up?
a specific list, I have 3 or 4 things that we were talking about that we didn't really decide one way or the other. 911 was one of them, HR person or contract was one of them. I don't know that there were many others left on the list, unless there's things you all want to talk about.
I think HR, we just need to hire somebody to.
No.
Well, there's
I don't wanna have another person.
salaries that we still have to talk about.
Right, salary, yes.
There's.
So you gotta get one more person to either agree with either of us.
There could be other various adjustments to ER or to GR.
ER. We go to the emergency room too.
So, I mean, but
Yeah.
keep that in mind. I mean, if we make an adjustment to GR, then we're spending down reserves. So,
I just think we gotta keep it under control, because you don't know where it's gonna go next year. December was bad on our sales tax. January, a lot of times will make up for it when it does that. If you go back and look historically, they kind of offset each other. But, you know, they're talking about the rates going up and different things happening could have an effect, so. We just gotta be cognizant of that, so.
if it has an effect, then our budget goes out the window because less than a 1% increase over, what was it, $12,000 or something was all we increased in sales tax over the whole year.
But we also haven't been budgeting that, we've been budgeting.
Well, I realize
stuff
that.
flat.
Right?
Budget versus actual, it's still,
I
the
mean,
whole year.
So you're budgeting flat, we had a $12,000 increase this year versus last, and it could very easily go and be minus 2%. So,
That's happening in Columbia.
Online service.
If you have like a,
It
I mean,
is.
it can be an abbreviated list that you want us to think about, so when we come in here tomorrow, we can either be yes or no, and, you know, I'm kinda, my heels dug in the ground on a couple of things, but,
he needs to think about stuff when he's bowling tonight.
yeah.
Just
I will-
email-
I will try to get you
Just
something.
email them to about every half hour.
I'm sure I'll be getting a phone call from Chief too. He finds me on bowling night.
Does he?
Yep,
That's
always
good.
about 6 beers in, about 6 o'clock.
We expect another perfect game tonight.
That's right.
That's right.
Yeah, good luck with that one. I'm not your typical 300 bowler. It happened to me. Usually they make it happen. So,
Good.
Anything else?
Maybe we stand in recess till 5:30.
second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Man, if I would know he was gonna be done this early, I would've made some plans today too.